just kill all my things here so I can share my screen. You don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that. This is probably important stuff. All right, cool. Let me just log in here. Okay, can everybody hear me still? And can everybody see my screen? Zoom is requested to bypass the system. Whatever, I've got it muted for a reason. All right, cool. And everybody can see my screen, right?
Right. Yeah, thumbs up.
Good. Let me just turn my video off that way you're not looking up my nose. Okay, cool. So anyways, and since the last time we met, I made a simple website, and well, there's a couple things I built. So last time we met, I talked about some of the things I was building with AI, and one of the things is a cucumber library, which has now become much more sophisticated. And has been released, and there's been a few different versions of it, but it can do shared steps, which was a requested feature, and things like that. So it even can do async with a special tag. It has tagging, all the things, like you can tag something as async. This is a special tag, but we'll talk a little bit about designing and building this with AI. But the main thing is that I put this under Huddlz HQ because I've had this idea in my head for a while that I wasn't really happy with, well, I shouldn't say that. Let me say it like this. I wanted something like meetup.com, but something that was more about community. And I feel like in this future AI world where people will shortly be talking to computers all day, every day, meeting in person will be super important. So, so I wanted to build a platform where people could meet in person, kind of like meetup.com, but without some of the limitations of meetup.com. One of the main things I wanted to build here was MCP integration, so that when people are talking to their AI overlords in the future, they can ask their AI overlords, where exactly is a thing close to me? Like I want to go to Elixir meetup close to me, and their AI be able to respond with something, here's the things in your area, here's how you get there. Cool. So I've had this idea in my head for a while that I wanted to do something. So this is open source, and the reason it's open source is that you can't have a community tool unless it's community driven. So I believe in that. So anyways, it's open. Y'all can go make issues. The UI and stuff isn't great. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I've almost entirely let AI write what is here. And I was just going to talk to you a little bit about kind of some of the decisions I made. So I was talking with Gabriel earlier, and he was like, hey, you can use React because React has amazing UIs. And I picked Elixir, and I picked Live View. And I know people are going to go, oh, no surprise, you host the Elixir meetup. But I honestly had to do some reflection because I thought to myself, in the world where AI is writing the code, why do I care what language it's written in? Like, what does it matter? And I thought to myself, and I don't know how true this is or not, this is all an experiment, but I thought to myself, Elixir is an immutable programming language, and it's very succinct. And I think that its immutability lends to less bugs. And I think that AI is going to produce some weird code sometimes. And maybe having an immutable language might actually be to my benefit because I won't have to worry about, when I did Ruby development, sometimes we'd have like, okay, current user is not who I thought it was going to be. why is current user not the thing? Of course, current user was defined as a class level variable. It was defined in application controller, but application controller also inherited from like extended 3 different modules, and each one of those modules had a class level at current user. And so it would become very, very difficult sometimes for something as simple as like current user, that thing should just be set. Like where in the code and in which layer of inheritance in the chain is at current user being set, and like how do I troubleshoot that? And so I thought to myself, well, those kinds of bugs don't exist in Elixir, so I think Elixir is a good choice for that. And then I thought to myself, well, if I'm leaning towards Elixir and kind of like this idea of that, how do I eliminate even more bugs? And the next kind of thought process I had was, well, I'll use Ash as a framework. And I chose to use Ash because I thought, well, if AI can just write the DSL and Ash is generating the code, then I won't have to write as much code, and I'll know that the code is correct as long as it gets the DSL correct. So, and then there's already some niceties about live view with Ash, so it just kind of like all rolled together that, the things I'm already familiar with, obviously I'm leaning towards this stuff anyways, but I do feel like in this new world of AI might actually make more sense than some other choices. Cool, so I've talked a lot about that. Huddlz has a bug that I deployed moments before I showed up here. Sorry, there's supposed to be the huddle right now, which is the actual event right now, announcing Huddlz, but it has a bug where if it's on the same day, it goes to, so anyways, we could change it from upcoming. It's supposed to be an upcoming, or at least current, right? Because it actually hasn't done it yet. But I don't have any UI here for seeing past events, right? So that would be a feature that probably would be useful in Huddlz. I actually had other features planned that I was going to kind of work on here and show y'all my current state of how I'm doing things. But since this is an actual bug, and there's 2 things. One, we probably shouldn't remove the event or the huddle from our list here until it's actually over. And then 2, the other thing is that we should have a way to go see our past events. So everybody kind of in agreement on that?
Can you say that again? Should not remove.
Well, we'll type it up here. So let's go to our issues. Remember, Huddlz is open, so if y'all decide to use this and want to add something, right now it's kind of just me and my meetups. I host 3 meetups actually, for the people that don't know. And so for me right now, it's just going to be my stuff until it's a little bit more mature, but I'm hoping to open this up to everybody. So I have some issues here, I have some things, and let's make a new issue here.
Wait, if you look at 53.
Yep, well, that's 2 things. Let's break this down, because AI needs kind of smaller tasks. So I would say, can you, Michael, let's run this one, but instead of saying past events or current events, let's just say past events, right?
Okay, update it.
Update it, and then we probably need some more information here about what it means to see past events, right? You've given me a picture here of the group, but maybe we should see this from the search page?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Add in the screenshot.
I don't know how much of a screenshot you need, but we do need a description. So last time I talked, I showed y'all that everything through VS Code, and because I figured that most people would be using VS Code. However, I really don't use VS Code. And in fact, I thought I was going to use an editor more than I'm using it, but I really don't even use an editor these days.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right? AI is writing my code.
The depth of
Yeah.
code editors. Yeah.
So what do I need an editor for? So I've actually been using Claude Code, and unfortunately, I've been stalling a little bit because Google's been, IDP's been out today, so we may or may not get Claude, which will make this demo go very, very poorly. And however, I have two windows here. I don't know if you can see them. There's one down here that says Claude, and there's one over here that says Mixed Test Watch. I'm gonna switch to this other one. And in this other one, I have both a server running and, sorry, this was actually in a different, this little thing is always in my way and I can't move it. So normally what I do now is I have this, I found a lot of value in Mixed Test Watch. So it will just, every time a file changes, run my test again. And so I just let AI go to town. And as it's changing files, I get to see if my tests are updating or not. And then up here, I have a server running, which the only reason I have the server, well, there's a couple reasons I have the server running. One is you'll see in a moment, it may or may not decide because it's AI and it's not deterministic, but it may just all of a sudden decide, I'm going to open up a browser and I'm going to verify some stuff. So I'm running a couple of MCPs. I'm running one MCP that is Tidewave, which allows it to allows the AI to talk directly to my code and ask my code questions about itself. I have another MCP that I'm running, which is, here's our case statement that got generated earlier, and I'll show you this in just a second. This is the bug. I was going somewhere with that. MCPs. So I have another MCP, which is Puppeteer, which will decide at some point it might need to open the browser and verify something visually. So instead of me going and visually verifying something, the AI will just like pop a browser open, log in, and go check to make sure something's working correctly. And then I have another MCP, which is Context 7, which is like if for some reason Tidewave doesn't have some information or there's some obscure library it needs to learn about something, it can go use Context 7. And Context 7 is like an AI-generated current version of most every utility, whatever. It's just like, it's like documentation for anything you can think of, every library you can think of. So it can just go ask about things that maybe aren't installed, because currently, right, Tidewave will only tell it about currently installed information, or currently installed applications. Are there questions on this so far? Sorry. I know the demo's coming and everybody's in anticipation, but I just want to make sure I didn't lose anybody.
My eyes are on that case statement up there.
Yeah, the case statement's pretty cool. So I'm going to brag a little bit about Ash. Let me actually open an editor. Let me figure out how to do that again. So I have this Huddlz X thing here. And so actually what happens here is Ash has this thing called a calculation. And this is just Elixir code, as you can see here. And what's interesting about Ash calculations is if you have this, loaded in memory and you ask it to do the calculation, it will actually run this calculation in memory. But if the record is not loaded in memory, it will look at this calculation and it'll actually execute it at the database layer, which is what we're seeing somewhere. We were seeing it. I can't see. Yeah, right here. So, so cool. So I wrote really like one little chunk of code here. This is a calculation. It's called status. It returns an atom, and here's the expression. And now Ash can, depending on context, execute that expression in different ways, which is pretty phenomenal. Ash guys, it's awesome. I don't think any of them showed up this month, but when you watch the recording, if you do, thanks. Cool. Okay, what's this? Yeah. So some of this stuff is generated, so I don't know what it is. Like, what is this? So here's a calculation called visible virtual link. It's going through, it's finding an actor, it's finding some ID, it's, oh, okay, great. I see what it's doing. So Ash also gives you like some escape valves. So like if I need to do something that, Ash can't maybe express easily, I can just put it in a module and implement some hooks and have escape valves for whatever. Anyways, that's not the gist here. So, Michael, did you update that yet? Cool. All right. So we need unable to see past events. I guess that's enough information.
I think you can edit it.
It's okay. So last time we talked about I have a 4-phase plan, or a 4-phase like thing I do where I like plan, and then I build, and then I verify, and I reflect. Those were all different commands I have. So let's look at our plan command. I talked a little about that. So let's plan this issue here. So we're going to plan issue 53. One of the things I used to, oh, there's updates. Hold on. Let's just make sure we got the latest. Anthropic is good about releasing stuff like several times a day. All right, so let's plan this. And also, used to, I would have to tell Claude, especially in my plan, like I have multiple instructions in my plan command here that tell it, don't do anything without my permission, consult me, you're a project manager, we're a partner. I've tried to explain it every kind of way possible. And most of the time, it'll just go off and implement stuff anyways because it's Claude. So the nice thing about the new Claude that just came out recently is I can cycle this to plan mode, and it can't write code. So let's kick this off.
What's the difference? I haven't used Claude Code. What's the difference between this and using Cursor's agent feature?
Claude is actually useful.
Enabling.
Yeah, it's enabling. So anyways, Cursor's agent feature is like a different set of prompts than Claude Code. Claude Code already includes like its own set of prompts. So you can use Claude 4 with Cursor. But I've found that of all the tools I use, Claude Code is currently, everything changes often, currently the best coding agent. And I really like Claude Code because it is designed to be an agent that actually does work for you. And so where Cursor's like, I'm an editor that, is your pair programming buddy, Claude is like, I am your agent doing work on your behalf, which is why I don't open an editor much anymore. The downside to Claude is it is slower than a lot of the other AIs out there. So there's that. As you can see, it's taking its sweet time loading files. I can hit Control R here and show you, like it's, okay, well, I guess it can't. It hadn't spit out stuff like transcript yet, but it will. So it's reading, it's used 10 tools so far. So it's searching through my code base. It pulled down the GitHub issue, first of all. It read it. It's trying to understand it. Now it's looking through the code base and it's trying to figure out, like, okay, what is this thing? What is this issue talking about? Once again, it's a little slower. They're going to get faster. But it should probably here in a second prompt me with, like, hey, I found the problem and here's how I think we should solve it.
You think my images are gonna screw it up?
It has the ability to see images. I don't know if it actually pulled the images down or not. Okay, so it says, oh, it's trying to plan. So the issue, applications, filters out, pass, cross. So this is the past one. Add a new all read action that doesn't filter by date, modify the group by plan, have an optional included past argument. Okay, here's the plan. So we can read this and we can say, no, let's keep planning. And we can add additional context. So like what's missing here, right? So let's say, hey, I want a read action called all that gives all the Huddlz. That's probably legit. Do we want one that says all or do we want one that's like past?
Right now I'm concerned that we don't have a definition on what past is. Past, everything from after the start date has passed or after the end date has passed. Does that matter in this context?
I think it does. All right, let's say no plan. So let's say we should have a past action, read action, that is all events from
Previous to the start date?
before the end time of current for Huddlz.
Or
Right?
wouldn't that give you current as well?
Well, yeah, that'd give you so past Yes, before the start time, you're right. All right, see what it comes up with now. So you have to kind of iterate a little bit and figure out exactly what you're trying to do and explain it. And I think this is the part that people are like, oh, I just threw a prompt at my AI and it didn't do exactly what I thought it was going to do. And it's like, yeah, well, it would have done this, but like, is this what we wanted? So.
Can you see the tools that are used, like more tools, like is that what it is?
Why is it not
Control E
showing?
to show previous 46 messages.
Okay. So here's like where it's using tools to read files. So it's using the search. It found these files. It's reading files in my code base currently, figuring out these are test files. It's figuring out how the test files work, where it needs to implement things. So it's looking through the code and figuring out like how does the code work.
I think you're in a file right now, though. Is it updating this?
No, this is a tool. This is a search tool here, and this is a read tool. So it searched for something called filter by visibility, probably because it read it in this file up here and it wants to understand it. And then it read, once it found that tool, like it did the search, once it found where it was located, it did a read tool where it read that file. Make sense?
Yeah, but what you're looking at right now, is this a cat of what it did, or is this like a tail dash F?
This is the context, because what a context is with an AI is you give it a prompt and it gives you a response, and when you prompt it again, it sends all that back to the server, and then it sends you back a whole new thing. So we're passing this entire chat log back and forth because there's no memory.
Yeah.
There's no memory but the chat log. So we're passing the entire chat log back and forth every single time. So this is it finding stuff, appending it to the chat log, and then sending it to the server so that the server can.
But is it still showing it thinking right now, or is it?
I've stopped it so we can look at the stuff, this tools, but it's at this point here where it's like, what are you ready to do? All right. So let's see, add a past read actions to the resource, add a past read actions to the resource, add a new read action called past after the upcoming action, use a prepare function to filter Huddlz, where the ends at is less than the time now. Is that right? It says filter where the end, didn't we just say tell it start at?
That's what I thought.
I think that's right, because this means the end date has passed.
Yep, you're right. So it knows more than we do. Apply the same filter visibility preparation for consistent access control. That's probably a good deal. Do we want to be able to give a date range to the past? I mean, we could really get specific on this, like for a demo for today. I'm going to ship this. How about that?
I mean, I think it's wrong about the ends at. I mean, you could ship it.
I think that the problem, so that would, using the start, I would solve this problem. It wouldn't have any context of what's currently in progress.
But that's the other one. That's the other bug, right?
That's
You're
the
doing
other
the
bug.
past.
There's already code for in progress there. So like it knows that we want to get in progress at some point, even if that's not working right now. I think that's my assumption.
Yeah, I mean, the logic here is wrong, but you can hit enter if you want.
I think this is wrong, but whatever.
Oh, wait, this.
Cool. So I normally do some planning. I'm going to let this do some planning, and then what I'm going to do is, and I'll talk through it since it's got to do some more planning now, is once I get the plan together, my plan will actually go create a branch, but lately I've been telling it to create a GitHub workspace, a Git workspace, which Git workspaces are like a hard branch of your code. So I'll have it kick off a Git workspace, and I'll let this AI agent continue working on this problem, and then I'll go prompt another AI agent to go do something else in the code base at the same time.
Yeah, I think NZAP was right.
Yeah.
Because
it'll still solve this problem.
Start set will be current.
Alright,
Yeah.
the issue reports that the user cannot see past events. Currently, an upcoming action that filters where start set is greater than, so it flipped the logic. Instead of ends at less than, start set greater than, which is kind of the same thing, but not really.
You could go back to the previous plan.
I'm just gonna, let's see what it does. We can change it. All right. It didn't. It didn't go with my plan because I put it in plan mode, which is interesting. So I have written my own plan mode, and so it's like, oh, I'm just going to start implementing this, but I don't want it to implement this. I really want it to use my plan mode, so that it will. It's going to start over. So that it will write my files. So you'll see what I'm talking about. Their plan is like, oh, I'm going to make a to-do list in memory, and you can see it here, and I'm just going to do it. And probably for a simple enough task, it probably could knock it right out. I like for it to write each small task to disk, because if the context window runs out and it forgets where it's at, or it loses, so see how it's starting to write the task here? If it loses context, my app crashes, there's a network error, whatever, I want it to be able to resume. So my plan command that I wrote basically creates a folder called issues and task, and then and I'll show you how this works. So let's go look at GitHub here, code. I don't know that this is the best way to do this. There's probably better ways, but you can see here's the different issues. So let's look at like issue 41. And what it did was it wrote an index file. And the index file is basically like, these are the objectives, and here's each one of the steps that it needs to accomplish. And then in task, for each one of the steps that it needs to accomplish, it has like a detailed list of like what it needs to do to accomplish that thing, right? And then also I can correct it along the way. So when I run my build command in a minute, my build command will go look at the task folder for a particular issue and run through all the tasks for that. Does that make sense? And this way, if I run out of context or the thing dies on task 3, what it does is as it's continuously working through the problems for 41, it will update the index on what step it's on and if it has accomplished that step or not. Where is it at? Sorry, I think it actually does it in the task. So, and it will keep track of, and maybe I just didn't do 41 or didn't check the code in, maybe I should look at a different one. Sometimes I don't check stuff in. Actually, you know what, it's keeping track in the session, sorry. So here it is, it keeps track in the session of what things it's accomplished, where it is in 41. So apparently, here's where it knocked out all 41 and the steps. So at any point, if anything crashes or dies or whatever, I just tell it to go build again, and it knows how to pick up right where it left off. Which is me hacking the system. Other questions about this so far, too? Like nobody's, like I'm really open to people just interrupting me.
Welcome.
Honestly, biggest thing I'd be interested in learning a little bit more about, Micah, is some of like your plan steps and prompts that all kind of feed together, because the way that you think about the system cohesively makes a lot of sense to me. But I haven't had as much luck playing with trying to get my system to behave in this way.
Yeah, okay, cool. So let's kick this off and we'll look at this a little bit. So I'm gonna kick this one off and we can look at some of these prompts. It's all online, it's all open source. No magic here. So
The only requirement on this is you need just Claude. You need to be using like Claude 4.1 or.
there's no requirement for any of this.
But like if I wanted to use your approach, like to
Here's
work
my
on
prompt.
an issue I created.
Here's my prompt right here. You can just go copy it into your whatever AI tool you're using, and you can use that AI tool. I don't know why that's. Oh, it's because I'm looking at this screen where it's hovering, but over here I'm clicking on somebody's face. Oh. All right, here we go. So I have a prompt. This is my plan, and it's like there's a parameter called issue, which is GitHub issue. I define in here how to initially start it. Like if you go to check, if I didn't give you an issue, right? Like, well, there's some roles here. Role, you're a strategic thought partner. You're not a servant who jumps into implementation. You are a distinguished principal project manager who leads with questions to understand the real problem, acts as a strategic advisor and thought partner, facilitates decision making rather than dictating plans, ensures that we're solving the right problems before planning solutions, and asks one question at a time for easier stakeholder responses. Because it would just, give me 20 questions, and like it's really hard for me to answer them like that. And then there's like this initial gathering context thing. And basically what this does is, if I say plan and I don't give it an issue, it'll go look to see if the folder already exists for that issue. And if the folder already exists, it's like, oh, well, we were already in planning, something happened, we'll just stay here. If we're not at that point though, it will go check out a branch for me, right? It'll like check which branch we're in, make sure we're in the right branch. It'll go get issues from GitHub for me. And then, there's more instructions. You can see where I tell Claude over and over and over again, do not just go ahead and implement stuff, because Claude just loves to go write code. Like I'm just constantly berating it with, don't do it unless I explicitly tell you to. But it still does it anyways, a lot of times. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does the right thing, but a lot of times it's like, oh, I know what to do. I'm just going to go do it. And then here's like phases broke down for like how I want it to understand, explore the problem, the technical feasibility of it, blah, blah, blah. I obviously had AI help me with this. Instructions on how to recover after failure, blah, blah, blah. There's even like directory structures in here. Here's an example of how to make an index file and what things it needs to have. Here's an example of each issue in the session and how it keeps track of the session. And then I tell it anytime that we're like in the build step, not here, but anytime I correct you or tell you to do something differently, you need to make a comment in your session file so that at the end we can do the discovery phase. So I'll show you how that works in a minute. So anyways, this is planning. It's all there. There's no magic or me trying to hold anything back. Like it's open source, it's right here. Here's the directory structure that we looked at for the task and how they get laid out. And then, so after I plan, then when I go into the build step, which is here, sorry. I don't know how to alphabetize anything anymore because AI does all my work for me. And I'm clicking on my face again, but I'm looking at the screen where it's clicking on the raw text. Okay, here we go. Here's the build phase. So the build phase basically tries to go one task at a time. Through the task, it goes to verify that the issue directory exists. Basically, like if it doesn't find it, like you need to ask. And this is so like I can just type /build, and if I'm not in a branch, it'll go, hey, you're not in a branch. I see you have like 20 issues on disk. Which issue are you talking about? So it'll figure that out for me. And you can see this is just a lot like programming, right? Like I'm literally like, if you do this, do this. If else, do this, right? Like my prompts are a program now. And so here's some example markdown, part of the prompting, part of the program. Here's instructions on how to test my system at each step, my quality gates. I want to make sure that here's how to implement it. I want to make sure that we start with TDD and BDD, and we have cucumber behaviors defined for everything. We want to make sure that we write a failing test first. We implement minimal code to pass. We refactor if needed, so on and so forth. So it took me, I spent some time on this, and I've had this go through a few iterations now, and I don't know that it's perfect. It still doesn't get everything right, but it does come up with a progress log. Like every time it's doing something, it adds it to the session. And so it just keeps AI on track. This is what's keeping it running. And let's go look at we're over here. Okay, the plan was approved. The task structure is ready. Da, 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 da. Okay, cool. So this is what I'm talking about. I can completely clear this, blow away the session. It doesn't matter, right? Because I have all those files. Written out to disk now on what steps it needs to do, and we're at 53, right? Here's the session where it keeps track of its notes. Here's the index on like what it's supposed to be doing, so it knows, and then like here's the task. And there's probably a bug here that I realized just a while ago where it's not updating the index and only the session, but whatever, as long as it's keeping track, it's keeping track. So we've got all that. While we were chatting, it was it's playing all that out. So now I can just build.
So when you run this build command, does it automatically run the clear command?
No, I ran the clear command just then. I could have continued the chat log. I was just showing you that like the way I've designed this is that at any point we can just start from that point. We don't have to, like I'll let it do task 1 here in just a second, and then I'll clear it again. Okay. Like I don't have, so a big part of prompting today is managing context, and so that's what I do. So a great example of this is I guess Vinny's still in here. Vinny was asking me the other day, Vinny Mazza, fake Vinny Vinny was asking me, he's not real, he's just an AI. He was asking me the other day, like, should I write a file to manage, to like what are the best practices for my code base? And my answer is you shouldn't, because if you have a linting tool like Credo, you should just turn on all your linters and tell it to run the lint at the end. Because if you write a giant file about your code style and load that into your context, you're now eating up your context window, right? So it's better just to have one blurb that says run your linter, and then the linter goes, oh, here's the mistakes, here's the code style that's wrong in your app, and it goes and fixes that. And then there's less that you've loaded into your context window. So a lot of AI right now, for me at least, my discovery or big aha moment is managing context windows. How do I keep how do I have just the exact information that's needed for the current task and nothing more?
So question on that then, when you clear this out and you're gonna run build on this again, you're gonna load up the context you've uploaded to GitHub. Am I right in guessing that context window is not gonna be smaller than if you had?
Yeah, because I just cleared it. Like all the planning stuff we just did would have been in the context window if I just continued.
Right.
I cleared all that planning stuff out.
Because the result of it is now in your issue.
It's in my branch in the.
Is there ever a benefit not to clear it?
Well, the benefit not to clear it is that when you clear it, it completely forgets what you've been doing. So if you don't have a system like this where you're writing records to files and you're keeping track of where you were, then when you clear it, it has no idea. It's just forgotten everything it's ever known.
But I mean, with this system, is there a benefit to not clear it?
No, that's the whole reason I built this, is that I can clear the context at any point. Right? That's the purpose of it.
Yeah. But still, you don't auto have your build command run the clear command?
So sometimes it doesn't auto compact. Claude Code does. Other AIs are different, but a Claude Code does an auto compact at the end, which summarizes where you're at. And sometimes the summary is good and it can continue where it was and there's no problems. But sometimes like it'll compact 2 or 3 times and it's like a summary of a summary of a summary, and it's just completely lost and it has no idea what it's doing at all. Like it just starts doing wild stuff. So for me, I can just, kill it and start over at any point. So anyways, yeah, it'll run through this one. So let's get this up and going.
I guess there's like a startup cost to having it reread the files and get up to speed.
I mean, there is, but I mean, you see, it's. I mean, the problem is that Claude is a slower AI. Like ChatGPT is much faster. It's just ChatGPT isn't as capable because ChatGPT doesn't have. They have decided that they're not going to do MCPs, so it doesn't have tool calling capabilities. Like you'll see in a minute, this will probably get stuck on something, and when it gets stuck on something, it'll actually like go look up documentation through the MCPs, go out to the internet. It'll even like maybe in a second to verify, it'll kick open a browser and like actually go verify that it's working. ChatGPT can't do that. So, and that is a huge benefit to these things being able to actually accomplish them.
What's involved in your QA step there? Is that like running tests, or is that like, does it know how to, like you said, like open a browser? Like
yeah, it'll run the test in a minute.
Itself? Okay,
It's writing a feature for test right now.
gotcha.
I think it planned that wrong because my instructions, as you saw, told it to always write tests first and have them fail. So it still decides to do its own. It's literally like dealing with a person. It really is.
I know the code that I want. I'm just gonna write it.
Yeah. I could tell it to, like, it's like dealing with a junior engineer and you tell them 15 times to do something and they still go do something different. It's the same thing here. Just managing bots now instead of people. So it'll run for a minute, it'll run some stuff. Britton, did that answer your question any? Did you, go?
Yeah, that nailed it. I was here last month, and that was a lot of stuff that I was like, this resonates with the way I've been trying to think about it, but cannot get to coerce it into behaving. So
If you have optimizations, feel free to either make a PR or chat me up on or whatever, because like I am very much we're all learning, right? Like anybody that says they're an expert or whatever in this right now they're not. So we're all learning. So if you have any feedback or whatever, like I'm always looking for ways to improve this because it's not perfect.
oh, awesome.
But the AI is an expert. It is a senior expert.
It's really like dealing with a junior engineer.
Did you have to tell it?
The advantage to it is, and I didn't get to the point because I was going to do it, but if you use Git workspaces where you can work in the same code base in multiple PRs at the same time, I can use tmux and I can swap through my tmux sessions really quick. I only have one open right now, but I can swap through them really quickly and I can have 3, 4, 5 tasks running at the same time. And that is like, even though it's like dealing with 5 junior engineers, it's like a giant force multiplier because it means I can be pairing on or working on 5 tasks at the same time versus just one at a time.
But is the consequence there that they're all working on the same branch? Like if you have tmux sessions, are they all in the same GitHub branch?
No, they're GitHub work trees.
Okay. So
I said workspaces, I think, but I'm not, and I keep saying GitHub because it is GitHub workspaces. They're not GitHub workspaces, they're Git work trees, which is really hard for me to say.
So how do you deal with conflicts then in those cases? Because you might be touching the same file.
Because they're Git work trees.
I know, but you're gonna at some point merge into.
Yeah. So I mean, at some point you have to merge, but you can just tell the AI to fix the merge conflicts, right?
And can you tell each of the agents to say like, tell this person your context and understand?
Well, the way I have this written is that at the end it makes a PR.
Yeah.
And all the tests have to pass for the PR to get merged, and all the tests from the merge have to pass for the code to get deployed.
Can you tell it what order to merge in? Because sometimes.
I mean, I
one
manually go
massive-
do all that through GitHub. Like I'm literally going and I don't want it automatically merging code into my code base.
Gotcha.
I go do, and a lot of times I'll go do a code review and I'll be like, I don't like the style of this, and I'll just make my code review right there in GitHub, and then I'll go tell it, go pull down the comments and fix it.
Look at the PR comments.
Yeah. No, it's.
I just ask, sometimes you get a situation where it's like, okay, you have a lot of small TRs, but if you merge the big one first, and then all the little ones are gonna have merge conflicts versus you do it the other way around. And you just have one merge conflict thing to solve. But it doesn't matter if you're doing it manually, so.
And you have it add and commit as it goes?
So I have told it to, I've told it to do one task at a time and make sure that that commit is passing and then make a commit, but obviously it decided, because I'm doing a presentation, that it didn't want to do that. It's probably 70% of the time it actually does what I tell it to do, but today it's like, you know what, I'm gonna go do my own thing. But it's checking right now the test, so it's like, it just ran the test there. So it actually tried to run the test file there, but it's trying to run a feature test, mixed test feature, which you can't do, and it's like, oh yeah. So I have in my Claude code, in my Claude MD, in the instructions, over and over and over again, do not run mixed test on a feature file, and it's like, oh, this is a broader issue with Cucumber compilation. Let me check the mixed project file, and it's like, I put this everywhere. It's not compilation. You can't mix test a dot feature.
Shame.
I tell it over and over and over again, and it's gonna go, oh, you're right. And I've got it in all the memory and everywhere.
You're absolutely right.
It still doesn't. Sometimes, now, 70% of the time,
Yeah.
it gets it right. But like tonight, it's just like, so there it is, it ran the test. Looks like they're all passing. No, it doesn't actually, we're not passing.
Good, the tests are failing.
We can actually go look at it
It's
here,
not
and you can see
implemented.
it's like, these things weren't implemented.
So
It has 4 failures. So,
It's saying it's doing TDD. Well, it wrote the test, but it still needs to build the UI.
yeah,
So it's.
I guess it
it's
did
TDD
do-
the UI. but
oh,
it's not
so it actually did
TDD
this
the
right.
database.
So I have to tell it, because it's Ash, you have to modify the resource first, because you have to generate changes off of the resource. So it did that, and then it wrote the test. So it did what I told it to do, but the problem here is that me as a human, I understand that the changes here to the resource are only changes to like calculations. They're not changes to the data model. So it didn't need to do them first. So I maybe need to give it better instructions about, when using Ash, only if you're changing the attributes do you have to do that first to generate the test code. And I think there's actually now with the new rules files from Ash, there's a, I'll show you this too. So Ash now has this thing called rules, and you run a command, and basically it will generate a, where's rules at? Right here. So it generates this usage rules file for me, because I'm using the framework, and it's basically just like a nice, like, examples and instructions on how to write Ash code. And what it does is it looks, every Ash dependency has a, well, not every Ash, but a lot of them have rules files. And so when you run the rules sync, it grabs all the dependencies rules files, and it basically concatenates them all into one rules file for you. So basically it's like, here's how you do code interfaces, and here's examples. And it's a pretty large file. It's like, you know, it takes up a lot of the context window, but it is pretty, you know, complete now. So last time I said I had taken blog post, and we can see that in here, it's over here. I had taken blog post and, where's docs? Fed them, because it didn't know how to do Ash, I had fed them into this, there's an index here. I'd fed the multiple blog posts into here and told it to like, make an index file, and because at first I told it just make like a document on all the things that Ash can do from these blog posts, and it did, but the document like almost blew the context window out of the water just loading it. So then I was like, well crap, I've got to like do that better. So I instead told it to write an index file with information on how to do different, like as summaries, and then each one of these files has more detailed information. So it did all this for me, but I just gave it a bunch of blog posts on how to do it. But honestly, I think this has some value now, but now that Ash itself is generating these rules files, you know, I don't know how much value that has anymore. Maybe, maybe not. So this is definitely more thorough on how to use Ash, but maybe not as thorough on examples of how to build an application with Ash. Yeah.
So I came like super late.
Yes.
So how did you end up getting there? What was the start with prompting to building an entire app with just AI?
I just wanted to, I for the first time thought that AI was capable of it, and I wanted to see it. And so for me, like a lot of people, some people ask me like, are you scared because like AI is getting so good, like it's going to take your job? And for me, actually, it's actually kind of liberating because I have a bunch of ideas in my head, I just don't have time.
Right.
And so for me, I'm like, well, now I can do all the things I've always wanted to do because I can like, even though I'm not physically doing it, I can get it done, right?
We just wrote
Like
a
I've had
GitHub issue, and then we wrote his command plan, and then the GitHub issue number, and it did everything. And now he's running build, and it's building everything.
and it's running test too, but another interesting thing is, I had this idea for this cucumber library in Elixir for like over 3 years, but like how it needed, like how to use metaprogramming to turn a feature file into an Elixir test, because all the cucumber libraries that are out there for Elixir, they do like OTP trees and like store, they're just real complicated. And I was like, why do we need to do all that? We could just use Elixir's testing, and we could just metaprogram this thing and build it in memory at compile time. And so basically I was able to build this thing that I've had in my head for years, but I just never had time to do it because I was able to just feed the instructions or the examples to the AI. This is what I would like for you to do, and this is in my head what I think how this needs to be accomplished. And here's some specifications for Cucumber, and here's some, like I gave it a few examples, and it spit out like within 3 hours, like a first pass. Now, I've had to iterate on it a few times, and it wasn't feature complete, and I've added some more stuff to it over time, but this whole library is 100% AI written, and it is fairly comprehensive for a Cucumber implementation at this point. There's a couple things it doesn't have, but it has a lot of stuff. Like, it even does automatic tagging and things for you. So, it's pretty robust, and I didn't have to do a lot of anything. Of course, it's got its own thanks package. So it didn't link that correctly. I'll have to get it to fix that. But yeah, and it generated, and then I have, let's see if I should switch it around. Here's my library, and pretty comprehensive documentation that's generated. How to use it. The modules are well documented. This is all, AI made this. I mean, I made this. I just prompted it a few times. So it's like, it's great in my opinion. And this other idea that I've had for a while, where I wanted a community-driven community platform, which is Huddlz, I can build this now. Or I wouldn't have had time before. Well, it's not, I could have built it before. It's just like, you start thinking about, oh, it's going to take time, I'm just going to do this or that, and I'm not going to be able to get it done. Now I just let it, not every day, because sometimes I'm busy with other things in work, but like slower days at work, I just let this thing churn on code on the side while I'm working. So, yeah.
Anybody else do that too? Or
So,
do you find it really efficient, like it works most of the...
I mean, I have something online, it's a product. Is it perfect? No. It writes some code that I would not write at times, and it gets things wrong that sometimes it'll one-shot something that I'm like, this is brilliant, I would have never been able to think of this is amazing. And then other times it'll get stuck on something, and I'll be telling it in the prompt, you just need to add a single if statement here. Just add a single if statement here. And I'll do that, like oh yeah, sure, I understand exactly what you're saying, and then just not do it. And I'll just have to stop it and go add the if statement myself, because it cannot figure out how to add an if statement. And it's like, you're the dumbest thing that's ever you know, like, but then at other times it's like, wow, it's brilliant. So
Yeah.
it's been, you know, it's kind of hit or miss right now. It's only, this is the worst it'll ever be though. Right?
Right.
It's only going to get better.
Find at least one. Is this one you wrote? Expect find at least one?
No, it's writing all this right now. We can go look at the changes.
Right.
Yeah, let's go look at what it's actually changed. So far it has written, it has modified this, it's written this feature file. So this is actually what it's working through right now. It added that. I visit the home page, I select past events from the date filter. I should see past Huddlz. I should not see future Huddlz in the past section. And so let's see, what does it mean I should see past Huddlz? So that's going to be here. I should see past Huddlz. So it's saying that it's the found huddle is any Huddlz where it tries, okay, so it's like lost right now. This is really dumb. This is a really dumb way to do this. So this test is just a bad test that it's writing. So I'm gonna have to now go prompt it and say, and maybe it figures it out and fixes it if I just let it keep running. But usually at this point I'll go, you know, your past Huddlz test is not a good test.
You don't like it, it's checking for an H3 tag and
I don't, so you can do assert has here. And that is, so assert has will stop the test. So you don't need to do a true false for enum any and then assert on the true false with the expectation here. Like you can just like iterate over each one and do an assert has.
Yeah.
That make sense?
Yeah.
So this is a really verbose way of doing something that, you know, I don't like this test. Is the test wrong? I don't guess. It also adds a lot of white space. I don't know why it does this. So in a minute, if it ever figures out how to get this right, it'll run a mixed format and then it'll run a mixed credo lint. It usually does that every time. It doesn't usually mess that one up.
Question on testing.
What's that?
How do you prompt?
One second, and I'll answer this. So remember I said it'll start, so it has ran the test a few times and they're not passing and it can't figure out why the tests aren't passing. So it is asking me if it can open a browser and start trying to figure this out. So I'm gonna tell you yes. Good.
How does it know how to write useful tests? That's very vague, but how do you tell like what things in the UI are important to test versus like, oh, I have a class, I have a CSS class on here that should be there?
It just figures it out. It looks at the DOM.
Okay,
It went and looked at the DOM and figured it out.
gotcha.
Sunrise height.
Cool, it sees it.
Well, it doesn't see our current, well, I guess it's still going on.
All right, let's go do some quality checks now.
So it found 5.
Found what do
It's
you mean,
listing
found
1. It says it found 5.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, it's
It'll
probably wrong. So let's see. Oh, it's still
Making changes.
making changes. Oh, it just refreshed because it ran the test and it didn't put the thing in here that kept the form. Oh wow, that's really bad.
I mean, it works.
So now it's running. It ran the test. Now it's running Credo to fix all the linting issues, and Credo's going, hey, these aliases aren't organized alphabetically, and you don't have module docs, and all the things it gripes about, and it's just going through and fixing all those things. Remember earlier I said for styles, you just let it, and you can see it's 31% down here to auto compaction. So we'll let it run a little longer. So it's going to signing in now. It's like, oh, I need to sign in. Let me sign in with Bob. It likes Bob and Alice a lot. It has quite a few different names to choose from, but it seems to always pick either Bob or Alice. Yeah.
Okay.
So it filled in the wrong box with the magic link there, so it did not log in. My thing here, so it did not log in, which is, so it gets confused. So when it goes to sign in, and this is its thing here, but like on Huddlz here, yeah, if you go to sign in, you can sign in with magic link or you can sign in with user password, and it apparently filled out this email, which is the wrong one, with the email address, and clicked this button down here and didn't sign in, but it didn't figure out that it didn't sign in. So
It'll be like, hey, everything's passing.
well, one test is failing, but it checked it off. It's not a feature bug. It's like, it will definitely quite often try to tell you that everything's fine. What's the thing, the reward hacking that they talk about in AI? It does that all the time. Where it will just like, at a certain point, it'll just start lying to me and telling me that the test passed, and they absolutely don't. Depending on how challenging the problem is. It's really interesting. It's literally like dealing with a junior dev. So it's like, no, you're telling me the tests are passing, but I'm watching them fail in CI, so you're going to have to fix them.
It's kind of a side note, but when I was signing up, the magic link wasn't sending me an email.
Okay, you need to figure out why the one test passes or fails. This will not pass in CI, and this will not be acceptable.
So you don't have to tell it, like, your issue is you can't sign in. You can be able to sign in.
You're absolutely right. I'm always absolutely right. I've never been absolutely wrong by this thing. Even sometimes I'll tell it the incorrect stuff. Like earlier, it told us like 3 times that we actually wanted the NZ greater than, and we just kept telling it no,
Yeah.
no, and finally it's like, okay, I'll do what you're asking me to do, but it actually was like, had figured out like this is the right direction for this.
Have you tried this workflow on a significantly larger code base? Or would you run more context issues?
The problem is context window, right? Like if you're running this on like if I was running this on work where we have like, 5 or 6 services and they all have their own code base and try to implement a feature across all those things, I just don't see how this would work. Now,
Yet.
well,
Maybe one day.
I mean, so here's the thing. I say that. Anthropic, who makes Claude Code, has a monorepo of all their stuff. And so maybe, the nice thing I think the reason Claude Code works so well and the reason that Anthropic does such a good job is everybody from the CEO all the way down. Like, look, it's a IO inspector, it's a puts developer, right? Like, it's like literally like, I'm going to print the stuff here and see what's wrong so I can figure out how to fix this test. What was I going to say?
I saw that when the MCP crashed. So like the Tidewave crashed, that would happen for me.
Well, Tidewave doesn't crash. What are you saying when Tidewave crashes? What happens?
So the Claude loses access to the MCP, so it starts doing IO inspects and all kinds of weird scripts and things instead of asking the MCP.
Totally has access to the MCP right now. It just like, the issue is that Phoenix Live Test is not available in this context. Yeah, because you should be using, it's using the wrong testing framework. You should be using Phoenix Test, not Live View Test.
Okay, so you can interrupt it at any point.
Yes and no. So you see how, well, it actually worked really fast then. But as it's working, it'll keep your prompts in the, like at the bottom until it gets to a point where it's ready to receive them. Sometimes it'll go like 10 minutes before it reads the thing, and it's like way past where I was. But right then, you're right. Of course I'm right. When have I ever been wrong?
This is why.
Yeah. I love it, right? Like, the best junior dev ever.
Agrees with you.
Yeah, most of the time when I have a junior dev, they just argue with me. So.
Issue.
Because the group is nil.
No.
The relationship isn't now loaded. Okay, cool. You didn't load it right. Oh, because you didn't pass the actor. Look at there. That'll do it.
Apparently a test framework issue.
So wait, so.
That's not a test. That's them. It didn't. Yeah.
I've heard
It was. This is a testing framework. They literally told me that. This is a problem with Phoenix Test. It's like, no, you didn't pass the right function.
Well, I mean, wasn't it failing because he couldn't log in?
No, it was failing because it didn't. The data wasn't there. It just fixed it. I guarantee you that fixed it. So we'll let it run for a second longer, and then.
This is the future of talks. It's just gonna be like, let's just
Well,
look at the.
It sucks right now because Claude is so slow. Remember last time I was using GPT 4.1 and like you would type a thing and it would be instant? The problem is GPT 4.1 is useless, or even 4.0, because they don't have tool access. So when this gets faster, you can just imagine you give it a prompt and it's just done, right? Like, so when you say this is the future of talks, it's really not. Like, this will be like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like 10 years from now, when these things are so good, you can just say, write me an operating system, and it's like, it's just done. Like, what is, like, right? Like, that's coming. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the future of talks is. I imagine the future of talks is AI telling you stuff. You show up and there's like an AI person on a screen and they talk to you and they teach you, and like, I don't know where humans, like it's really weird. Like I'm super excited about right now, but the not so distant future, like where do humans play into any of this? Because
You'll be at the bar checking your bots instead of checking your Instagram, so
maybe
it's going to be better.
Assuming an AI is not managing your bots.
Well, but the AI is putting content on Instagram too.
If the AI is managing your bots, do you even have a job? Where do humans fit into this?
We're going to be cycling making energy.
Yeah. That's a great episode of Black Mirror, by the way.
Still failing.
Yeah. So another thing about this too is I have like one of these Claude accounts where like it's like $100 a month and I get a lot of usage. The other side of this is this prompt, because we've been running it now for like 45 minutes. If you were paying for this prompt, it'd probably be $50 at this point. So it's kind of expensive with API usage. So.
How much would it cost in developer time?
I don't know. Like, so for this particular feature right here.
If you ignored it and just came back to it later to check it.
Yeah, right. Well, if I could run 3 or 4 or 5 of these, right?
Yeah, and then you just check it.
It's way cheaper than a developer. If it's $50 an hour and you could run 10 of them, you basically you're
just babysitting.
You've just had a 10x workforce multiplier, right?
But is it learning? Are you trying to teach it to learn from your process?
I am.
And is it learning?
I don't know. Sometimes it does everything exactly, and sometimes it's just way off. And like right now, for instance, at this point, normally I would stop it and I would go fix the test. It's got one failing test and they can't figure out how to fix it, and I would just stop it and go fix it.
And maybe that's a good thing to teach it, that you have to intervene.
Yeah. Sometimes I try to prompt it to intervene, and then sometimes I'll just go fix it for it and just tell it, this is how I fixed it, go run the test and make the PR. So,
last week's meetup, monthly retrospect.
Yeah, it's generated. It generated all that. Like it's not. I see the issue. Are you sure you do? Because you've really been running for a minute now. But at this point, it's 95% of the way there. It has one failing test, and we see that it actually works in the UI. I would just go fix the test and commit it, and then like at that point, I have to ask myself. I probably could have written, because all this was a single action. I probably could have written this single action and a simple test and had this working faster than what it just took.
But you could, but not other people.
Well, maybe not someone else, but I would not have tested it as thoroughly as it's tested it. Like, I'm talking about a simple test. Like, I feel like it generated, that's one of the weird things about AI is sometimes it's too verbose, which I think works out good for tests, because it's better to have more tests than less tests. But for code, it's bad. So I don't know how to balance that part.
So what I think would be interesting action item after this talk is I've made a few issues and I try to get this running on my machine and open some PRs. And
Whatever.
maybe I don't fix everything. Maybe I just open the PR and be like, hey, Micah, can you look at this?
Well, that's what you have to do. I mean, like, I
And
have to
like-
look at the PRs.
Well, I mean, at some point you have to move this past you monitoring it to now like a junior dev's monitoring it, using your process. And
Well, so right now, I can't use token-based usage with my $100 a month plan.
no, I would buy a plan.
So what I would like to do eventually is when I can use token-based usage with my $100 a month plan, which hopefully is coming soon, I would like to have AI reviewing the PRs that went up.
And
And
GitHub doing this already?
they kind of do, yeah.
I got an email this week that
They-
have
I-
something you can assign, if you assign
Taylor
Copilot.
wrote a PR today and asked Copilot to review it, and it was like literally Copilot wrote a paragraph that just described what the PR did, and it's like, how freaking useless is this? Like, and how many trees did we just burn to the ground for the most useless PR review I could have ever gotten? It told me nothing about the quality of the code, and it was just like, this is what the code does, and I'm like, yeah, it's 2 simple files and like 6 line changes. Like I opened it and immediately read, because I opened it, went straight to the files, I didn't read it, went, okay, this is what it is, approve, and then when I approved, it went back to the main menu, and I was like, oh, there's a Copilot review. And it took me longer to read the Copilot review than it did for me to glance at the code and know what it was doing. So,
On the testing comment, I've definitely noticed it writes a bit overly verbose tests. So like, even within a single test, I've run into situations where it uses like 10 times as many lines of code as it needs to do this test. And I guess if you're never reading the test, that's not such a big deal. But if you are going to read the test, it's annoying.
This is why I went back to behavior-driven development in the Cucumber. I actually thought to myself, Cucumber makes a lot of sense for AI, because now me and the AI can have a very common, plain English conversation about what the behaviors for this feature are. I don't know if that's exactly true or not, and my premise may be wrong, but that was my whole in order to start writing this app, I had to write a Cucumber framework first, because I was like, oh, I can communicate with the AI via Cucumber, and it can write the test, and I can validate them, and I can say this is wrong or this is right, and I just thought it would help keep everything on track. I'm not sure that it does, obviously. I mean, this is such a simple test, and just use authorize false for the test.
We haven't, I think we're just now experimenting with some sort of product to do AI code reviews, but I have
That's a
been
great
using,
idea.
we review so like if we update a mixed step for an NPM package or something,
You're right.
we review the diff to check for malicious code introduced, like a toolchain attack, basically. It's like part of our company policy is we review all of the changes in lines of code of all the dependencies. And So when I've been doing that, I also ask the AI to review it to see if it thinks any of the changes were suspicious, but I guess I need to find I should test it on an actual toolchain attack and see if it would actually find it. So far, the AI has never said that anything looks suspicious, but probably there hasn't been anything suspicious.
Have you found anything suspicious?
No, it's pretty rare.
I think I'm using my new package of it.
What does it do?
It's like a mocker.
So one of the advantages to Claude in that PR review process is just like Mike is here, shaping the prompts with the Claude commands. If you pull that in GitHub Actions, you can do something similar. We're generating a report based on some log outputs from something. I can't get too much more specific about what it's for, but it was able to do just kind of like historical data using an MCP to talk to a database and make a better report that has context about previous failed tests, which was pretty cool. And we were able to do that by, kind of customizing the prompt, right? As opposed to something like GitHub, which just comes in with no context, right? That's part of why you just get garbage from it.
So we have one failing test. I can fix it. I'm probably going to shut the meeting down now because I feel like the value's here. People understand. It can write the code. It can open a browser. It can do the things. We're not there yet. It's getting better. I'm going to keep iterating on Huddlz. Hopefully next meetup, I'll still be using a meetup for a while, but hopefully we'll start using Huddlz more and more. Let's kill this.
Can you pull Huddlz up and refresh just to see if we see past events?
Yeah. Well, I have to. I don't have it deployed.
Oh, so it's dummy data. It doesn't have like.
Well, yeah. This is the local host, right? It's working here on localhost. But I need this PR to actually pass. Also, this is really ugly UI. I need to figure out what's going on with that. So there's a couple things I need to fix or prompt it to fix. But
did you prompt it for the color scheme and everything, or did it come up with that on its own?
This was like the default color scheme from the framework, and it's horrible. Yeah. The orange is very loud.
I'm not a web designer at all, but I have had some pretty good experience just telling it, like, please make this look better with maybe just a few hints about what I want it to look like. And I've noticed it's pretty good at web design and CSS.
It's like, you need to delete. Do you see what I was trying to do? Is like, I need to clean all the dependencies and recompile. And it's like, no, you can't do this thing. It's in your Claude MD. It's in the instructions for the build command. So, thanks, Anthony.
I see the issue. When it's wrong, it's like gloriously wrong.
It'll just it's at a point where it's stuck, and it's just gonna keep.
It's like it's no longer saying like fetching and doing others. It's just like I'm trying.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to go fix it at this point. But I mean, like I'll go fix it, and then I'll get it to push the PR up, and then we'll get it, and then I'll once the PR's up, then I'll go do a PR review, and I'll ask it to pull the PR down, look at the comments, and fix whatever changes I have, and it'll push the changes up, and then I'll review again, and then once it's right, I'll merge it. So, and the real power in this obviously is not running one thing during a meetup. The power in this is using Git work trees and running 3, 4, 5 things at the same time. So,
do you think maybe it's just not ready for human process yet? And it's just, if you let it alone, it would just write something and you could go back and fix it, but it doesn't want to go through planning and all the stages you want it to.
I don't know. So I think it's fine. So it's really it's really weird because like sometimes I'll prompt it and it'll just one shot and it'll be perfect. And sometimes it'll be like this where it almost gets it right, but It's not quite there.
So it needs ask your senior
It still needs a human to come in and intervene and get some things working, right? It's not quite a human replacement yet. But once again, this is the worst it'll ever be.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen even since the last meetup?
Yeah, it's improved since the last meetup. I mean, you remember where we were last
Yeah,
meetup?
you were saying Claude, I'm not gonna use even Claude because it's gonna just go
Yeah.
crazy. Right?
I notice whenever I use generative AI, like OpenAI, for example, and it's not giving me quite the response that I'm looking for, like as detail oriented, or it's just not paying as much attention.
Mhm.
Whenever I in a more, I guess, trivial way to say it, like more when I kiss its ass and I say, "Oh, you did a great job," anyway, you know, and then I'd be like,
Yeah, Claude doesn't care.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, ChatGPT likes its ass kissed a little bit, you're right. But like, Claude is like, I don't know, it's kind of no bullshit. It's kind of like,
Well, you know, you killed it. You could have been like, you have failed me, and then you could have killed it.
I mean, I could, yeah.
Burn a few tokens.
Or go to jail, right? Like, that's the famous prompt. Shouldn't use. Implement this feature or go to jail.
You are now in jail. If you mess up again, you will be moved to solitary confinement.
All right, cool. I'm going to fix the thing. I'll push up a PR. I'll do that offline. I burned through an hour and a half already. So.
Where I find this interesting is I've wanted to work with you on something in the past. It could be cool if you're like, hey, Mike, like this issue is important. And so like, instead of solving it myself, I get this to put up a PR and I get it pretty far along. And then it's like, yeah, the AI did it, but also I was involved and I checked some things. And then it goes to you for final approval, but it's like a way that we could work together, whereas in the past, I don't think it would have been possible because now it's of like your format, you know, it's your like.
I definitely think so. I mean, it's open source. I'm trying to make it open source.
Yeah.
At some point, it will be more full featured where we'll have more of a, meetup style thing. At some point, I will have to charge something for it because I can't like just fund this thing out of my pocket forever. But I think that's down the road. So I definitely want to get this thing up and running off the ground and get people using it.
But like, I don't know Ash
ready to go.
intimately, right? But I could.
Why do you need to?
I could check and see that things are doing what I expect when I submit the PR.
Why do you need to know anything?
That's what I'm saying. Like this figures it out for you.
I mean, at a certain point in the not so distant future, when AI is a better coder than any human alive, no one will ever look at the code.
Yeah, but that's where I see this to be like really valuable at the human level. Is like now I can work on Rust programs with Rust people without knowing Rust, but I can still put up a PR that's pretty good.
I mean, my ideal solution is I don't have to worry about what the technology is behind the scenes. The only thing I have to do is tell it what behaviors I want. Like this is the experience I want, the behavior I want, whatever, and it do that. But here's the thing: is that with these MCP tools and these newer apps like Claude and ChatGPT and stuff on your phone that you just talked to, once the MCPs are completely integrated into things like your bank account, like everything, like why would you ever even use the internet? Like if I can just go to my AI and be like, hey, what are the Huddlz in my area? And it's like, oh, there's a meetup. You might, because it knows everything about me, because it has a giant context window from the beginning of the conversation I've ever had with it. And it knows all my preferences. And it's just like, oh, there's a meetup or an Elixir because you're interested in that going on next week. Would you like me to add you to it? Yeah, please, remind me.
You'll just be talking with it.
Yes, like why would you ever even go to a web page? That's where we're going. Like the internet's dead. People just haven't realized it yet.
Well, it'll be fun when I can wear my glasses and be my sunglasses and be biking and just be like, Claude, I want to do this feature, and like it just starts writing the code, and like I can just be biking.
There will be no code though, and it'll be instant.
So if you think there's no need for web pages, then what's the need for writing code?
I mean, today there is, right? Like, because people still are doing this, but like in 5 to 10 years, when people are just talking to their phones, why would they ever go to a web page? Why would anyone ever go to Google.com? Google's dead.
Well, people are still gonna watch stuff like YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, stuff like that for sure. But like, why would anyone ever go to Google.com and search?
Why do I go to a website?
You just ask
just
your
data,
phone.
right? Just data.
Yeah.
Listen,
Get my
hear.
hands on
Yeah, just tell me, make a report about it. And a lot of people are like, oh, Gemini is going to be the winner because Gemini integrates with Calendar and Gemini integrates with your spreadsheets. And I'm like, do Calendar and spreadsheets even exist in this future world? Because if AI knows all the events in your life, and like the idea that Google Calendar is like, oh, we're going to present a calendar to you this way, the way that we think you need to have a calendar. But if you could just have an AI generate a calendar on the fly that's like the calendar style you like and your preferences, why do you need something like Google Calendar? Just like, hey, make me a calendar right now on the fly. Oh, I don't like it like that. Change it like this. Okay, now always present it to me like that.
Yeah, but the data is just starts somewhere, so Google is gonna be
The data is what's important. The applications, I think, are going away.
I mean, I guess the accuracy of the stuff, of the information isn't there at the moment. Like they'll tell you, if you search and lead generate and whatever, they say, yeah, this is what you do, and you're like, are you sure because I've read this? Oh, you're right.
Right, well, that's because and Google does something called grounding now, which makes it a little bit better, but that's because they don't have tools like MCPs. So if you could say, you know, like, what's my current bank account? Like, there's no way for an AI like Google to know what your current bank account is, because it can't go get your balance. But if you have an MCP there that can auth to your bank, it can go and go, oh, this is your exact balance right this second. And so now you've gone, like, really easily from, you have an AI that's kind of useless to an AI that's very useful.
I mean, it would be cool if they could tell you how they verify what they're telling you.
Right, well, that's the reason why this is actually working, is because it constantly through here, during the course of its coding, was just going and asking Tidewave, which is the MCP server on my code here, it's asking my code information about the code. And my code is going, this is my current status. And so, like, without that MCP server, it would be kind of useless building software.
So maybe that's what will happen with all searches by humans, they'll have to have this.
They'll have some data grounding. So like if Huddlz had an MCP, you could connect your AI to the Huddlz MCP, and then you could say, hey, what's going on? What events are happening near me? And now it has real-time actual data, and it's not just making stuff up anymore. And so, yeah, you've just, with one little switch, you've gone from kind of useless to very useful.
Maybe that's all Google just needs to do.
They Anthropic developed MCPs, and Google's like trying to invest in their own tools, and I can't think of what the name of the Google tools are. They're not very useful. They're like trying to build all their tools in their own ecosystem, and they really need to be, if they really want to win this game, they need to be building tools that anybody can use.
So Google doesn't have an MCP?
No.
Google has a thing where you can be like, that's a nice birch tree, and it'll be like, that's a palm tree. You're wrong.
Google does what's called grounding. So like when you ask Gemini something, it has a tool that knows how to search Google and validate the results according to Google, but it doesn't have a way where you can extend it with another tool that's like, here's how to access my code. Here's how to access my bank account. Here's how to access, because like at work, I have a linear MCP.
Like a make.com or
super.
like a Zapier, it's not like that. Like with, it doesn't have, like when you say MCP, kind of like that, like where you can have direct integrations.
It's just a way
different data sets.
It's just a way for, it's like the way they describe it is a USB-C adapter for AI.
Okay.
So it's a way that you can plug any tool. MCP is just a way to plug basically any type of tool into your AI.
An API, right? It could be an API.
It could be an API, it could be something local, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It could be anything. It's like a USB-C, right? It could be anything. It could be your bank account, it could be your hard drive, files on your hard drive, it could be your web browser, like it was opening my web browser and driving it a while ago. It's doing all that because it has this common interface that it knows how to talk to tools. And it's really pretty easy interface. Like I wrote an MCP for work, for our CLI, but basically it just like exposes like a like here's a list of tools and their descriptions, and then the AI just reads the descriptions and goes, okay, this is what this tool does, and it just knows how to use it. So it's not really like it's not like it's a difficult thing. See if you can see this.
It's a special kind of prompt. You have
It's
to
just
follow some rules.
You follow some rules and you get some more prompts. But the prompts are like how to use the tools. And then you can use the tools to, basically it's JSON RPC 2.0.
So that's
So
how
what
they
exactly-
communicate.
Yeah.
What exactly is Tidewave? It's,
Okay, so Tidewave is the Elixir MCP. And let me show you how it
why
works.
does it specifically mention Phoenix on there? Like it specifically mentions like web frameworks, why is it?
Because it runs in your code. So I'm running the Tidewave server right now. I'll show you. So I am running I'm running the Tidewave server here just by running the application. And I can say things like,
Count how many Huddlz.
yeah, use Tidewave to count the Huddlz in the database. And so it'll go look at the tools, and there's a couple tools there. But one of the tools is it figured out execute SQL. It could have actually done a code eval, or it could have just executed code. But also because my application has the credentials to my database and that's exposed as a tool, it goes, oh, I can just run a query here. And so it just ran a query there to count how many were in the database. And then it's like, okay, I don't see any private past meetings. Let me go look at here. So now it's actually doing a project eval. So that's actually, it's AI, so it adds a bunch of IO puts and crap to it, whatever. But it like went and ran that in my application. It also has like a document lookup, so it can like go look up hex packages and you know, it's a list of tools specific to your application.
It's a program running next to your application.
It's running in my application.
In your app.
Yeah, it's a plug.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he exposes other, like SQL is one of the functions. The other function is get the logs from the server.
So it's a process running in the beam that the
Yeah.
application is running in. It's exposing an MCP interface.
Yep, it's just a plug.
Can you list, does it list all the tools that's,
Yeah. So
like Cloud, if you say Cloud, list all the Tidewave.
yeah, I don't see
Slash MCP.
you can do /MCP,
Okay.
but it's just going to show you Tidewave, Context 7, and so there's the tools.
Get logs.
Get the logs, get the source location, get a package location, eval some code, execute a query, get the ecto schemas, get some process info, do some trace processing, list the live view pages, search the documentation, and search packages. So, yeah.
Yeah, Micah, they updated the /MCP command and
Okay.
then go to Tidewave, press enter. It'll tell you how many tools, and you can view the tools that way as well.
Yeah, it used to not do that.
Yeah.
So if you click one, does it display what it is?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, this is the description. So basically all it is a description. This is what the AI reads, and this is how the AI knows to use it. And then it knows to use it.
How did you do it? You just typed Tidewave?
I typed /MCP but this is a Claude specific thing.
It'll
There's,
save you tokens.
yeah, there's a, what is it called, Paul? I shared it with you the other day, the MCP CLI, is that what it's called?
The inspector, I believe.
Yeah, it's like the CLI inspector or something like that. Anyways, it's a CLI where you can run the command and then it'll list all the tools on an MCP and you can like inspect the MCP without an AI.
Can you type MCP again? The /MCP?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Is all your MCP stuff in this repo, or do you have to set it up like outside of it?
You have to set it up outside of it, I believe. Actually, it might have an MCP JSON. I don't remember. Do I have an MCP JSON in here? I don't know.
Yeah, one of them is called the NCP inspector, and then there's also the debugger or debug,
There you
something
go.
like that. Yeah.
I got Tidewave and Context 7 already set up for you. I don't have Puppeteer in here though, so you'll have to add Puppeteer. And it will give you an error because I'm not using the proxy if the server is not running when you start it. So you can put the proxy in its place though, which is a little Rust binary that will allow you to kill the server and restart it. But I'm old school still. When I say old school, like I started using Tidewave when it first came out like 3 weeks ago. Lots changed since then. Yeah, anyways. Cool, thanks everybody. That was, I'm out of voice, so appreciate everybody showing up.
Great talk, thank you.
Yeah.